I feel like you should have went. You should have went with like I don't know, Miracle Whip or something because it's got the red writing and it's got the white on the outside.
Brother, I should have did anything safer than the choices that I made. I have two other quick ones. This is pulled from your tweets. That was a good icebreaker. I appreciate that one. So it's I guess a two-part question. Crypto investors, genius or insane? So you have a tweet that says the problem with Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, and Dogecoin hashtag is that it provides a false sense of legitimacy. Don't forget these are billionaires when Doge eventually crashes. And you say, and it will. They will be fine.
And it did.
You dropped this in February 2021. So I'm going to get your credit out there, man, because I like when people predict correctly. So do you still feel that way? Crypto investors, genius or insane?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a legitimate case for crypto, and that's fine. But when it comes to, these joke coins or these meme coins that people just hop on just for the sake of hopping on because a billionaire said it, you got to be careful about that stuff. Like Elon Musk got up on SNL and admitted that it was trash, right? So
yeah, didn't it drop like 20% the next day?
Right, and it's been falling ever since that day, and has not really recovered since. But you have people who weren't billionaires that didn't necessarily have all the basics of investing covered that were jumping into it. So hey, look, I haven't paid my student loans. Let me put 5,000-6,000 in this thing and hope it does something, right? Some people got lucky. People who were in very early, they got lucky, they got out. But the majority of people, once it starts to become, local news, when you start seeing a local news segment, it's probably too late, right? So that's what people did, and they lost, and now they're sitting around holding the bag, trying to figure out when the next wave is going to come. And it may not, but you got to be real careful about that stuff. And for me, it's always interesting when you see people jump into stuff like that, but don't jump into like the basics. So I'll never forget, I had a barber in New York City. And I guess I shouldn't throw his name out there, but he was investing in Bitcoin. It's like 2017 when it first shot up and immediately crashed like right after that, right? Yep. And he was like, yeah, I've never done anything like this. I'm in this Bitcoin thing. You into Bitcoin? I'm like, you realize I'm a financial advisor. I work up the street. Like, I'm like, you can do some, right? You can do some, but like, have you ever thought about investing in like, I don't know, McDonald's or Target? He's like, no, man, it's too risky. I'm like, what? I'm like, how is Bitcoin not risky?
Right.
Or how is McDonald's and like stuff and understand? How's the stock market too risky, but like Bitcoin not? And it's just like, you got to make sure that your risk, your like how you react to risk and how you react to losing matches your invested type. So if you ain't scared, fine, right? But if you want to be cautious and you want to be successful and consistent, those two things do go together, then you got to, spread your wealth out and be very measured about what you decide to do.
And I think you're going to say the same thing, but I have to hit some of these whenever a financial planner comes on, our advisor, because I get yelled out in my community if I don't. So we also need to talk about, unfortunately, meme stocks, genius or insane. Your quote here is invest more into, I don't know which company this says, it's MSFT. And then you say, or them say, what do you think about AMC? And you say, y'all leave me alone about AMC. So what do you think about meme stock, genius or insane?
Yeah. So MSFT is Microsoft. That's a ticker symbol. So you type in MSFT to almost anything, and usually Microsoft will come up. Okay. AMC, for those, we all know the AMC theaters, right? But I'm not a fan of meme stocks. Not because they just, I don't know how to really describe it. Because now I'm getting mad.
I know the feeling.
Right. So no, I'm not a fan of meme stocks, and primarily it's because it suckers people into backwards thinking about something. So usually a company rises in value because there's something the company deserves to go up, right? For example, think of an airline. Pandemic is phasing out. Hopefully more people are traveling. The stock goes up. It deserves to go up. Makes sense, right? That's logical. Yes. More people shopping at Target, the price of Target stock goes up. That's logical, right? But in meme stocks and meme investments, it's backwards, where the stock starts to shoot up for no real apparent reason, and people just doing it and just jumping into it because it's a game. And you start to make up reasons behind the fact as to why it's going up, but it doesn't make sense. So like at the time, AMC had been falling for years. Like people had stopped going to the movies as much. And I will tell you right now, you're going to see stuff like Black Widow and a few other big holiday movies and stuff. But people are not ever going to go to the theaters at the same rate as they used to. That will never happen again, period. Why? Because I got Disney Plus. Why would I want to go step on sticky floors and pay $50 popcorn where I can watch in the comfort of my house as many times as I want for one price? You may not ever catch me until the next Avengers. You're not gonna catch me in the theater. Yep. So you're always gonna lose, whether it's 10% of people, 5%, whatever it is. You're not gonna ever see that. However, the stock was up like 1,000%. That don't make sense. That don't make sense, right? GameStop. People aren't going into buying physical games anymore. The new PlayStation, the new Xbox, they have digital editions where you never go in and trade in a disc anymore. It does not make sense for GameStop to take off in price because they don't make the games. You can't trade in a digital game. What are you here for? Like, it's the next Blockbuster, because that's exactly what happened to Blockbuster. Sure. So meme stocks is backwards. So people are making up reasons as to why it should go up, and then they have to sit here and convince you to invest in it, which is weird. Nobody ever came to me and said, "Hey, you should really invest in Apple. Like, you should put all your money in Apple." Nobody ever told me that. But when it comes to AMC, they come after you and they will like force you and bully you and tell you why you should invest in something that when you really take a look at it, it don't make no sense.
The one that I want to transition to is generational wealth for the kids. And so you have a tweet here. This was from October 19, actually. My son had enough money in his account to get a share of Apple. He's got a total of 6 stocks, which actually I think has grown since then. Right now, only at 18 months old, this is what generational wealth looks like. Talk a little bit about that, what you're doing for your son and why you're doing so.
Yeah, so I'll start with why I'm doing it. So it was 2010, long ago. It was a decade and some change now. So decades ago, I had an internship in New York. So it was my first time going to New York. I lived up there for 3 months for this internship, which is interesting because I ended up living in New York for like years later, which I never thought was going to happen. But aside from that, had a Wall Street internship. And when I tell you I was the worst intern in the world, I was terrible. But it was not all my fault. They didn't like really explain why it was there, what the stock market was, and like what are you doing and why is this important. It wasn't until like the second to last day, and they had this like website and tool we could use that told you like if you had invested X amount, you get to have this, or you would have had this much money. So being curious and a bored intern, I found out that my parents had only invested about $83 a month from the time I was born to the time I did that in 2010, that I would have had $810,000. $810,000 is the amount I could have had if my parents had only invested about $83 a month in Apple, and that was it. And at that point, I was shook. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, this is what investing is? Why haven't you told me about this? What happened? Like, what do I do now with this information? At that point, I wanted to make sure that my kids never had to ask that question: is what if? What if dad had went back in time and invested in this thing? How differently would my life have been had I had that type of money at this age? And that's what inspired me. I said, whenever I have kids, which at that point I was like, this will never happen, right? But whenever I have kids, I wanted to make sure they didn't have to have those types of questions or ever have that type of moment. So for both my son and my daughter, he's 3 now. She'll be a year next month. Both have investment accounts, both invest in Apple as well as other things. Because I don't want them to ever have to have that moment. And thankfully now there's so many more apps and options and opportunities that exist today that didn't exist then. Like, I don't even think my parents could have invested in Apple based on the way the stock market was back then. Like, you had to have an advisor. There were no apps back then. You had to like call some shady guy on the phone to make that happen. So I'm really glad that the world has changed since then. There aren't, those fees and stuff they would have had to pay. So I had the opportunity to do it, and I just wanted to make sure that I was able to do that for my kids, so I have way more options when they're my age.
Two funny things that jumped out there is I'm at that, and I'm trying to resist it, man. I'm at that back in my day stage because I paid off $30,000 in debt with an Excel spreadsheet. That's the hard way. I went to bankrate.com. I printed out a PDF, print. I think I had to go to Kinko's, you know what I'm saying? And I put together my own Excel spreadsheet. So kids are like, I don't know, I can't figure it out. I'm like, get it out. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little animated there. I feel some type of way about it. And then the other was I never knew. So I went to school at 19, I think I was, graduated at 22. I never knew how much my parents made, ever. It was just not a topic of discussion. Our money is our money. Don't worry about that. Get out my face. I was like, and they always made it seem like we was broke. And it was weird. I didn't realize, I mean, we were like, you know, doing well. We were like, I guess, middle class, maybe upper to middle class towards the end, by the time I'm going to college, I should say. And I should have known, because every time I date, girls would be like, where are we going? We're going to the other side of town?
Like, these houses are bigger.
They're like, where are you taking me? You know, I'm like, I'm going home, right? You know, the burbs, you know. I grew up in the gritty streets of the burbs. And so I finally had to fill out the FAFSA. And to your point, they didn't know how to do it. This is the only reason I found out. And I had to figure out, I was like, hey, I need your pay stubs. And when I saw how much my parents made, like, it was a fight. I was like, all my life, I had to fight and grind. Y'all didn't get me that car when I was 16. Like,
you were asking me for McDonald's money. You had it.
I got my first job at 16, man. I remember I was so mad because they were like, if you want a car, you get your own job. Now I went out 15 and a half. I had my resume filled out. I was like, I'm getting my money. I'm getting this car. So anyway, like I know the struggle. The struggle is real. And I feel it even more in my old geriatric millennial bones. I had to get that out there. I'm sorry. I mean, these kids don't know how easy they got it. But to your point, let me plug this. You have got, and you plug yourself. We're at the Wrap. So if there's any courses, there's a few. I've got one published to the chat for those of you who are watching live. And then I'll screen share for the people at home. You got a newsletter, but I'll let you know if you haven't hit everything, but the people at home will be able to see.
Yeah, so you can find me at all things social media at Building Bread. You can really find me a lot on YouTube and a platform called Public. It's an app for investors, so you can find me there too. If you go to the website, you'll see all my courses and information. I do want to tell y'all about the Investors Toolkit 2.0. It is my most fun class because I take people who have never invested before or have very little experience and take them through my entire investing process. And I think that's the big thing. Like, a lot of financial podcasts and investing courses talk about having goals, right? Goals are cool, but processes are better. And how do you get to that goal is the most important thing. When you focus on the process, the profit comes easily. So I'll walk you through my 7-step investing process, the process I used for my millionaire clients and obviously my most successful students as well. So I would encourage you to check it out. We do monthly investing calls for our students as well. So it's an added level of support. And
And that is for those watching. If you want to catch the replay, you can visit themarcusgarrett.com/webinar. I'll get all of this information out to you. And I say that because I'm going to cut out the coupon code for those of you who weren't watching live. So don't be shocked or appalled. Join the newsletter. We'll get that out to you. And that website is buildingbread.com, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And they can follow you at Building Bread on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I believe, let me stop sharing this offer for the people in the chat. I believe we're at the Wrap. Kevin, thank you for coming on the show. Always a great time, and I hope you'll come back and join us again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're now tuned into the smooth sounds of TMG. I'm your host, the Marcus Garrett.